Good morning, you beautiful bunch of Fockers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Tuesday, October 14th. We are here live. It is time for some Power Hour. I see we've got Eric here. I understand Bruce may not be joining us this morning. I think we can handle it ourselves. What do you think, Eric?
Oh, I don't know.
We'll show him.
So. We'll wing it.
Yeah, we'll show him. We don't need him. We'll kick him out of the He-Man Women's Haters Club.
I had a buddy of mine that had that above his mantle in his apartment. We were hanging out in our early 20s.
I have no idea why that just popped into my head. Wasn't that Calvin and Hobbes, or was that the Little Rascals?
I don't have a clue. The only place I ever saw was above the mantle.
I think it was Calvin and Hobbes. Both of them had something like that. But for some reason, I'm thinking it might have been Calvin and Hobbes. Huh.
Sarah wrote in the chat room there that it was a Little Rascals.
Oh, Little Rascals. So Calvin and Hobbes had something similar. What was that one then? Now I do remember Spanky saying that all the time. It was the Little Rascals. Boy, we're going way, way back now.
Yeah.
Sheesh. No idea why that popped into my head right then. But it did, so I said it, because that's normally what happens when things pop into my head. I just say them. What's with Bruce this morning?
He is traveling today, so I'm pretty sure he'll be back on live next.
Got it. I'll be traveling tomorrow. We're getting on the train tomorrow, heading to Nashville. You're going to be down there, aren't you?
Yeah, we're flying
right.
in. Bill and I will.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, next Thursday we're flying in the morning, and then we're flying out Saturday morning.
Got it. In and out quick.
Yeah, this one's going to be a short trip. Last year we stuck around for a little bit longer, but this year we both have to get back for stuff.
Yeah, I think we actually changed our return trip. We were going to stay a little longer. David's 80th birthday. What?
Oh, wow.
Lisa's hollering at me about something. But it was too long to stay. I mean, I think we had to stay almost another week for that. And it's just,
boy.
Yeah, we thought about it. And most years, David, because it's a big event for them. I mean, this is their big event of the year. If anybody that's put on, multi-day conferences, they're a monster. You start planning for this stuff a year ahead of time. You got to book the location sometimes 5 years out to get decent rates, and they're getting more and more difficult, more and more expensive to do. So a lot of times Dave and Bonnie will take off and go to Florida right after the event. 2 years ago, I went down with them, and we've talked about that. It's just right now, we've got a lot of stuff going on, just all good stuff, just too much. So I think we are getting on the train Sunday, the day after. I don't think we're hanging out at all this year. So looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I have a bunch of friends of mine down there right now. Actually, there's a drag and drive event going on, Sick Week they call it, where you drive your race car to every single track. And last night they were all cruising down Broadway.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking at all these pictures. My one buddy, Jeff Oppenheim, he's got and I'll probably get this wrong if you're listening, Jeff, sorry. It's a 39 or 40 Pontiac Passer. And it's called, what's it called? Reloading or something.
Wow.
He literally bought it out of bullet holes all through it. And it's just it's got the yellow tinted window glass in it, like out of the 60s, straight axle up front.
Yeah.
It is just, and then Jay Grabiak, another guy that I did the show with I did the show with both of these guys actually in Oklahoma. He's got his 55 gasser down there that has a mailbox for a hood scoop on it. And it's just really cool.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, seeing the pictures of all the cars on Nashville with all the lights lit up on the main drag.
Yeah.
And really cool shots of stuff going on. I wish we could have coordinated a little bit better that, we were together at the same week, but
Yeah.
oh well, that's such
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds like fun. So what do we got this morning?
So one thing before we get into the trucks in the shop, because we are busy right now, I read an article this morning that really made me open up my eyes. Like, we don't necessarily see things outside of our window. We tend to look in our own back.
Not kidding.
Look out. And I read an article where Carol Fulmer Trucking was shutting down, and they've been in business since 1954. There's going to be 600 employees out of a job, which is a lot.
Hold on a second. I was just talking yesterday about a company with 250 some trucks, and the CEO of they're out of Nebraska, huge carrier out of Nebraska. I'm just drawing a total blank. Derek Leathers is the CEO. I can't think of the company right now. It'll come to me.
I think that one yesterday also.
He said he knows of 17 companies with more than 250 trucks that went bankrupt last quarter. Did you read that one?
No, I didn't read that one.
Yeah. Yeah, he was there. There was a Montgomery, big flatbed carrier, just announced bankruptcy, and he was talking about that. And my co-host on Monday's show, Brent Hutto, was at a conference where this guy was speaking, and he talked about this. He says, I personally know 17 companies with more than 250 trucks that went bankrupt last quarter. How do I miss that? I read every headline I can find on Trucking News every morning. And I know there's been a lot of them, but I don't remember that many. Those are good-sized carriers. You're talking about, pretty major operations with lots of staff and employees and drivers and equipment, and that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, 450 trucks, and they did a lot of contracts for like Walmart and a couple other big carriers.
Here's the other thing, though. Maybe I'm just confused because there's so many of these. I thought Carol Fulmer announced this months ago, and somebody sent me the article yesterday, and I thought, well, I talked about that a couple months ago, I thought.
They did. They actually announced this on July 1st.
Okay.
But the thing that got me was now they're saying that they actually closed because of a bunch of bogus lawsuits. That's why they had to shut down.
They said that back in July. They said, yeah, they said it was primarily, they said it was kind of the freight environment, which has been tough on everybody. But they said primarily they had spent so much money fighting lawsuits, and they called them frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah. And the reason why I brought that up is because sometimes we don't realize, like, you may think that, things are really bad in your world or really good in your world or whatever, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. We haven't weathered the storm yet. And we're seeing new obstacles. And this kind of ties into that with the trucks too. I have an 19 Peterbilt in here, ISX, that we changed the head and injectors on. Well, we're still waiting for the injectors. And I called to find out the tracking on it, and they're stuck at the border. And then it dawned on me, the government shutdown. So the packages, really for a wrench in this one. I needed to have this job done like yesterday.
Yeah.
The packages we're trying to get in across the border, if you like next day air them, which is ungodly amount of shipping.
I can't even imagine.
They seem, it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's actually insulting.
Yeah, right.
Those seem to get through a little bit faster. So if anybody is trying to order parts, get them across the border, if you pony up on the shipping, they tend to seem to be going through a little bit faster. But if you're waiting on just regular ground, you may be in for a long wait, because my warehouse is actually going to outsource them from another warehouse just to get them here sooner, because they're stuck at customs and we don't know when they're going to get here. So,
this kind of is playing out an idea that was put forth in a book I read a couple of years ago, and I talked about it a lot when I read it, because I read a lot of books, and when a book impacts me as much as this book did, I talk about it a lot. And I don't even like the author. Him and I would not agree on most things politically at all. I follow him online, so I know all of his political beliefs. We're not in line on any of them, but the book was absolutely fascinating. It's called The End of the World is Just the Beginning. And the point of the book, it's a really good book, really interesting stuff, but it goes through this whole sequence of how we got to where we are in our global supply chain and how unbelievably complicated our global supply chain is. We ship stuff all over the world, back and forth. This part over here to have this done. Then we send it to this country. Then they put some of it together and they send it to this country for the. It's incredible how complex it is. And in the book, there's two things that are really hard to get my head around. The first one, not so much. That didn't start occurring till after World War II. And one of the reasons we have this complicated global shipping and it works is because of the United States protecting all of those ships all around the world. The military power of the United States basically says, look, if you mess with those ships, you're messing with us. And we're going to defend global shipping. I never realized that, but I guess that's what we've done since World War II. And when you think about it, remember the whole Somalia was big, the whole pirate thing, where they were just taking over entire boats, just stealing them. There was even a movie about it. That seems to have slowed down. We figured out how to control it. But then here was the big premise that the whole book was about. That system is already starting to fall apart and will continue to fall apart because we're not having enough babies. That
Interesting.
We are not producing enough new human beings to keep this complicated system going. Now, there were other factors, but the big premise of the book was we are going back to a system where you will be dependent on what you can produce in your own country. We will not have this wildly complicated, giant global shipping system that we have now. And when I first read it, I thought, it's really interesting, but that's just not going to happen. Come on. Really? But we're seeing it. We've been seeing it. I keep hearing things like this over and over and over. And, some of this is simply driven by Trump's tariffs right now. But it's the same idea. He's driving production back to the United States. That's what he wants to do. And if that's the case, then you're not dependent on cross-border and global shipping and all this other stuff that has messed with our supply chain. And it brings jobs. Now, here is the really interesting thing. The guy rated all the countries in the world. Like, if you had to only build a society on the raw materials you had access to, and what he did was he took North America. He said it's highly likely that the U.S., Canada, and Mexico would trade a lot more because of this. But he said he rated all the countries in the world based on resources. He said the number one place in the world to be would be the United States. We are that resource rich. All the things you need for a modern society, we can basically produce here, and we have a lot of them. One of the worst countries was China.
Interesting.
China has some things that, they have a lot of precious metals that we use in batteries and a bunch of other things. But he said overall, China would be in a real bind. They just don't have access to the resources without all this shipping.
I was just talking to Rock, who's my shop foreman, yesterday about this. We were talking about local companies cutting back and closing down and stuff. And we thought we were maybe coming out of this recession, but it still seems like it hasn't hit rock bottom yet on the back upswing. But he worked for a local coal mining company. It's called Rosebud Mining. And the gentleman that owns that company also owns Iron City Beer and a couple other big companies. Really nice guy. I've actually met him before. But the mines that they go in and out of, they're in there just until they run out of coal and then they're gone.
Right.
But the one mine, he said, is called the Clementine mine, and it's over by Indiana, PA. They opened it up in I think he said 79, 77, and it's still going to this day. So that's 45, 50 years of coal mining, and they still haven't depleted that. That's
and here's the other thing it's hard to get your head around unless you can go watch this occur. The sheer volume of coal they pull out of mines like this. Every single day, it is a lot of material. And you start thinking about that over decades, it's hard to get your head around that, comprehend that.
They were so far in the ground, they have these little carts. I'm assuming they were Cushman or something along the lines of that, probably traveling 10, 15 miles per hour. It was a 90-minute ride each way to get in and out of the mine.
Oh, man.
You jumped on the Cushman or whatever it was, and you didn't get to the cut until 7. A 90-minute ride back and forth. But I'm thinking, my goodness, in the morning, drinking coffee, I don't know if I could make it 90 minutes down there and back,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Hard to get your head around some of that stuff. So it's interesting that since I've read that book, I pay more attention to these kind of news reports, and you see it more and more. Company in our country certainly doing it. It seems more political for us, but we're doing it. We're nearshoring. We're bringing manufacturing back, and Trump's doing a lot of it with tariffs.
Yeah, now these new proposed tariffs for China, 100% tariffs starting November 1st. I'm hoping it's just a power flex and, everything falls in place, but that could disrupt a lot of businesses.
That's hard to imagine. Yeah.
Amazon has a stuff, and that affects us directly. The drivers, the mechanics, also.
No doubt.
They're putting up. It's going to be a big, big change here if that does go through. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully everything settles down, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. There's certainly some positives. Bringing, manufacturing back to this country is not a bad thing at all. The problem is when you start making major shifts like this, even if the final outcome is good, you're going to go through a lot of pain to get there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. There are growing pains no matter how you roll this one out. Somebody's going to suffer somewhere, but hopefully the outcome is the best one possible.
Yeah. Now, here's something I think a lot of people don't realize, how all of this is about money. I mean, that's what drives all of this. We manufacture in other parts of the world because it's cheaper. The labor is cheaper. And, that's just how this works. But when we were at, $5 fuel for a while, that alone, just that one factor, and manufacturing started shifting back to the U.S. Because at $5 fuel, you think about the ship's fuel, the truck's fuel, the train's fuel to get that stuff all moved around. It could not overcome the cheap labor. When fuel was at $5 a gallon plus, the math was, no, you could pay the higher wages here in the United States to manufacture stuff, and you would save money doing it. Walmart shifted a bunch of their suppliers to more local suppliers because it turned out to be cheaper because of the fuel cost.
Yeah. And now with tariffs, that's only going to add on to it. So hopefully it does it back.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, here's one more on this recession thing. The weird thing about this recession, FreightWave's calling it the worst freight recession since deregulation. Worse than 08, they're claiming. In some ways it is. It's the numbers are just weird. But here's the really weird thing. We've been in this freight recession for quite a while now, and we're trying to find the bottom and then find the way out. Why is the stock market still setting records? As far as the stock market's concerned, there is no recession. We're booming.
Yeah. Gold just hit, 4,000 an ounce or something? Did I read that right a couple days ago?
I think precious metals are now on their way back down pretty quickly. I think something just happened. I just read something this morning. I don't follow precious metals. As an investment, they are awful. There's two things here.
Yeah.
As an investment, precious metals are awful. They're volatile. They're hard to track. They really have not performed that well over history. What happens is these companies that sell precious metal for investments, the fees are outrageous. They make a ton of money buying and selling this stuff. Not that, it's not that the metal's that precious, it is, but the money is all in the fees of buying and selling it. That's why you see all these commercials about precious metals and, if the world's going to end, you're going to want to own gold. I'll talk about that in a second. They're a horrible investment. But what happens is they have these big run-ups all the time. And then these companies will say, well, look, if you would have bought gold on this date and sold it on this date, you would have had a 300% return. And they're right. But nobody could have predicted either one of those dates. And it was a short term. And then for years, they sit around doing nothing sometimes. So here's the whole point of, if the world's going to end and our economy collapses and money's worthless, you want to have gold. That's the mentality. My thought is, why? Why would you? Because you're going to need to buy stuff with it, and people aren't going to accept cash. And well, wait a minute. If we're really in that bad of shape that the entire economy has collapsed, our money's worthless, rather than gold, why wouldn't I just want to have food and guns and bullets and all the stuff that I need to live? Wouldn't it be better just to have that instead of trading with gold is not simple.
I thought the same thing, because I thought, okay, if it does come down to shit hits the fan, you can't eat gold. And if you try to trade gold for food or goods, what's that person going to do?
Exactly. It's not easy to trade with.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree 100% on that. I would much rather have supplies, ammunition,
even
stuff to be self.
Absolutely. Even if we end up in some sort of a barter system, I'll trade you bullets for food. That's easier.
Yeah.
You have something I want, I have something you want. We'll just trade those things. Currency could just go away at that point. The whole idea of having gold in some crazy emergency just never made sense to me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It always baffled me too. Like, well, why would you want that? Because nobody's going to need it.
Right. Yeah. It has value for a certain reason. It has many uses and its supply is limited. So jewelry, but come on, jewelry is completely non-essential. If we're worried about survival, nobody cares about their ring. And it's used in electronics. Not going to be a big demand for that if the shit hits the fan. So I've never understood that mentality, and nobody seems to question it.
My son, when he was younger, had a similar thing. Like, we have a camp up in northeast or north central PA, and it's completely off the grid. There is no cell phones. There are no landlines. There is no internet. You are off the land at that point. Now, we have running water and we have heating and air conditioning like that, but it's still electronic free.
Right.
And I remember before we were leaving, he was charging his phone up and he was all worried about, I got to make sure I see this and this and this, and this guy's going to come out with a new video. And I'm like, look, dude, you aren't going to be able to watch it up there. Well, why not? Well, he was like 11 or 12 years old. He's like, why not? I do YouTube. And I'm like, it ain't happening, man. He's like, why? I said, internet up there. Well, who would want to live up there? Everybody.
Well,
when you get older, I said, you're wanting to go away from all this stuff. But at 11 years old, he couldn't comprehend it. And now I see it with, people in their 20s and even 30s now. They're like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Well, here's the crazy thing. You can be as remote as you want to be, completely off the grid. But if you have power, you can have internet these days. Starlink is incredible for that.
Yeah, we're not going to mention that to him because that'll be the next thing he wants.
Right. I've played around with it. It doesn't take a ton of power. Now, if you wanted your internet on 24 hours a day, it will consume, quite a bit, but you can just turn it on and off when you need it. It doesn't take much power at all. I can run my entire and if you switch to a mini, it's even a lot less power draw. But even on the full size Starlink with the router and all that, the power draw is just not that big.
I figured I'd wait until he's like out of college and on his own, and then I'll put it in
Yeah.
internet, TV. He'll come up and be like, "What the heck? Why didn't I have this as a kid?"
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
It'll make you mad.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was interesting. A little bit of global discussion there. But you know what? Look around at what's happening right now. Holy cow. The world's become a crazy place. Our country's become a crazy place. I don't watch much news anymore.
Yeah.
Very, very little. And when I do watch it once in a while, I'm shocked at what's going on.
That's why I don't watch it.
Yeah,
it's depressing.
it is.
I learned a long time ago from my grandfather, because I was kind of like obsessed with social media and electronic. When the internet first came out in the late 90s, I was really obsessed with keeping up with events. But this is the greatest thing. And my grandfather was a World War II vet. He was, grew up in the Depression. They got an orange one year for Christmas. He saw a lot rougher times than out. And I remember him telling me, you need to shut that off and enjoy what's in front of you.
Absolutely.
And that stuck with me. But you don't realize what you have until you shut off everybody else's point of view.
Yeah.
Look what's in front of you. That's where you're going to enjoy yourself. That's where you're going to find your inner peace. That's what I do. I go up to my camp and sit, and we have a big, like a river really. Yeah. And I'll sit on these rocks with water and just sit there for hours. And usually I'm drinking. That's why. But I mean, still, all in all.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I do have to correct you on one thing, though. The internet was around long before the late 90s. I was on it in the mid 80s.
Oh. Well, I didn't get it until
right.
I'm
a
late bloomer.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, if you were on the internet any time in the 90s, you were pretty early. 80s was really, really early. I mean, back then it was, very, very 300 baud dial-up modems, and everything was text-based. It was just mostly local chat room kind of stuff. But I was actually on what was the early form of social media in the mid-80s.
So I graduated high school in '93, and there was no internet in our school then. I know that.
Oh, no, nobody. It was pretty rare for anybody to have internet access back then at all. It was the real geeks. I mean, the internet started in the scientific community. In universities and scientific community, it was a way for them to share information easier. And so it was the real geeks that were on it early, that early anyway.
I think I got AOL probably around 96, 97, somewhere there.
I've told this story before. I'm going to tell it again. So when you were on AOL in 96, 97, around that time, the chat rooms had to number in the hundreds or thousands of chat rooms going on. I mean, that was the heyday of AOL. And the number of people on AOL at any given time had to be in the millions. So I have a story. I was actually on AOL one day by myself. I was the only person on AOL. Here's how it happened. Because I had been really early in these local chat rooms, and then there was a service called Prodigy, which was kind of like an early AOL. There was another one too. I can't remember the name of it. I was on them all. I was fascinated by the whole concept. And I was working as a freight broker at the time, so I was in my office all day. So I could goof around with this stuff all day long. So one day I get this CD in the mail. Remember those? I get this CD in the mail, and it's an invitation to be a beta tester for a new service. And it was AOL, and nobody had heard of it by then. It hadn't even been released yet. So I load up this disk, and here was the difference. Here's what made AOL so popular. It was all graphic. You saw pictures and images and graphics, and everything prior to that was just text. It was just text line commands. All you saw on your screen on Prodigy or any of the CompuServe was a big one, and all these local chat rooms, it was just text on your screen. Like a big chat room is all they were. So AOL was this first one that had graphics and all these different areas, and you could create. Hi, I'm Kevin Rutherford. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe or leave a comment below. It really helps us get the show out to more people. If you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, you can sign up with the link below.